cold night in Europe. The lucky thing is that all of these teams have the return leg to play at home. Good evening, Rory Jennings. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's interesting that you say that, though, because I'm not sure it's going to be too relevant to Brighton. Yeah. The fact that they have a return leg, the fact that they have the opportunity to welcome Roma to the Amex, I think it's going to be neither here nor there because it's over, isn't it? Like, there's no way back. It's been quite impressive, their run in Europe. It's been quite impressive what they've achieved in the last half a decade or so. But the European adventure's over. We're not even going to pretend that there's any way back for them, are we? Or are we? Oh, we are. I
don't think you can rule that out. I don't think you can rule out a return leg. With no disrespect, the way you said it there was a little bit shady. You know, at the Amex, the Brighton fans, obviously they've got a mountain to climb here, and it was a bad night away. Therefore, I think possibly, and also Roberto De Zerbi, he's been tipped as the new guy. You know, links to replace Jurgen Klopp, links to replace Erik ten Hag at Manchester United, links to replace Xavi at Barcelona.
Yeah.
But
I know.
I feel now he really has to turn it around because these performances haven't been great.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because it's rare that you can say that these two feelings can coexist. I think that he is brilliant, but I also think he's overrated.
What's brilliant about him?
If you look at the way that he's gone into Brighton, a lot of the problems that were facing Brighton, you know, they lost Graham Potter, they lost the infrastructure around Graham Potter, they lost I think the player of the season the year that. The year after he left was Cucurella. They lost their best player. And it didn't look like they were in a good place. They were also struggling as a side. Remember, they were seen as being the XG kings. They had loads and loads of possession, loads and loads of chances, but couldn't really make it work. As soon as De Zerbi went in there, he made it work. He alleviated a lot of the problems that Brighton were facing when Graham Potter was their manager. And if you think about the way that he has continued the upward trajectory, if you look at the way that he has change the way they play, his tweaks of the formation, the way that he's elevated various individuals. I think that he is an excellent manager. I really do. I like the edge in his character. I think that there's that slight bit of spite, slight bit of venom. I think that's all really good. But I also find the links to, say, the Liverpool job premature. The links to the Barcelona job almost mind-blowingly early. So as much as I think he's great, as much as I concede that he's done a great job, I almost think that he should be in the market for a job. He would be in contention for maybe, in my opinion, the West Ham job. Yeah. Say David Moyes ends up moving on. Mm-hmm. I think De Zerbi would be a fantastic candidate for a club like West Ham, a club with the ambition of West Ham. If you think of who West Ham are a club with huge ambition. You know, they're marketing themselves as the London club. They won European silverware last year. They're in Europe this year. They're having a decent Premier League campaign. If David Moyes goes, and I think he probably should, if David Moyes does go, that's the level that I see De Zerbi at. Links to the Manchester United job. Like, is this fair to say? The Liverpool, Manchester United, and Barcelona have got to be three of the top five jobs in world football.
Agree.
Three of the most sought after, three of the most highly coveted. De Zerbi's not that geezer, I don't think.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
not yet.
And I would agree from these results of late. Brighton have won 2, drawn 1 and lost 5 of their last 8 games. So where's it started to go wrong?
It's gone wrong a lot. It's gone wrong a long time ago, though. Like, do you know when Jurgen Klopp announced that he was going to go, people started talking about De Zerbi. I had a look at his record, and looking strictly at the record, without taking into account what he's done to the club, without taking into account his personality and his aura, without taking into account the improvement on individual players. If you just looked at the results, which I know isn't necessarily fair to De Zerbi, you just look at the results, you're thinking, I'm reading that he's in line for the Liverpool job, but these results suggest that Brighton should be sacking him.
I remember it at the time, it was like 2 wins in 9 games. Yeah. Something like that.
The results are sackable by Brighton, and yet people are telling me that he's in line for the Liverpool job. The two things didn't make sense. But it's a very rare situation where I think in the Venn diagram of being brilliant, he exists, but also in the Venn diagram of being overrated. I think he is the grey area of the two Venn diagrams.
You've got to look at how Brighton are also run as a club. a very well-structured football team in terms of how they go about their transfer business, but also when you look at their managers who have been there, Graham Potter just before, De Zerbi, flourished in a well-run environment. You go to a big club where the pressure goes up once more. I'm not saying that Brighton aren't a big club, but one of those...
well, they're not a big club. We can certainly... it's very kind of you to not say that, but I think it's fair to say that Brighton are a very small club.
You can say that they're a very well-run club.
They're an excellent... I mean, you could argue that they're the best-run club in the Premier League. You could argue that they're that, but you could also argue that they're the smallest club in the Premier League. So the pressure that goes...
I hate when you sit on the fence.
No, I think that's true. I mean, I honestly do. I think if you think about the teams in the... I mean, there's a game tonight, isn't there? Leeds are playing Sheffield Wednesday. Both of those clubs are incredible in terms of their size and stature. Both of those clubs dwarf Brighton in terms of their relevance to football in this country.
I think that's harsh, Rory.
It's 100% true. This isn't my opinion. This is just 100% fact.
Brighton are brilliant. You can't say that when they're competing in Europe, okay, and they're getting lost like they did last night.
Brighton are a brilliant team. They have one of the best owners in world football, and what they've done is mind-blowingly good. Mm-hmm. But they're also an incredibly small, incredibly insignificant team in the tapestry of British football. They couldn't be smaller, in fact. Who are they comparable to in Premier League terms? Like, come on, this isn't my opinion. You're making me feel like this is really, really out there or really tribal. This is completely true.
I'm just a really nice guy. Okay?
You are incredibly nice.
Brighton's a lovely place. Okay,
lovely place, lovely people. But think about, look, you've got Leeds United playing against Sheffield Wednesday. Both of those clubs and what they represent in this country. Huge football clubs, huge support bases. Brighton, none of the above.
Brighton fans, I need to hear from you right now. 0371 722 3344. You can have it out with Rory Jennings on why your club is big. But seriously, when it comes to Roberto De Zerbi, is he a little bit overrated? There's no doubt he's a brilliant manager, but is he ready for the big jobs? And also, Brighton fans, how do you feel about the performance last night? A 4-0 defeat away to Roma. You've still, of course, got the return leg and a mountain to climb. But are you starting to notice a drop-off? Obviously, a change last night in how he lined them up, 3 at the back.
Yeah, 3 at the back. That seems to have really caught the mood with their fans. I think their fans were slightly upset that they've tried a new formation in such a huge game.
Yeah.
It's probably... This just to demonstrate the size of the club. They've gone away to Roma in the last 16 of a European competition. It's their biggest game ever. And in that occasion, they've tried a new formation, which is arguably naive, but equally, it's brave. And I think that there is a place for that. And that's why you can commend De Zerbi as well.
OK, Brighton CEO Paul Barber spoke exclusively to Jim White earlier on today and had this to say on the club's heavy defeat last night.
If Roberto's spoken to Tony once or twice about this, he's spoken to me about 100 times. So trust me, I know. And, I think you have to put it into the context of where we are. We're not going to use injuries as an excuse for last night because, we had a good team out and, we didn't perform on the night as well as we could have done. But we are missing Pedro, Mitoma, March, Milner, Hinchelwood. And Saito is only just coming back from injury. These are key players. These are big players for us.
Absolutely right. Paul Barber, what he's saying there, they are missing some key players.
That Mitoma injury, like it's so difficult. And then when you look at the players that they're going up against who play for Roma, whatever I think of, say, Romelu Lukaku, he is a huge player. He is a big game player, incredibly experienced, has scored big goals. So when you look at it's the esteem and the prestige of Roma. It was always going to be very difficult for Brighton because you can't coach that. Roma have recently won European silverware. They've recently been in a final of Europe. Brighton are novices at this. This is new for them. This is their first ever knockout in European football. Yeah. And that prestige is something that you can't coach. It takes time. We saw the impact that it had. In fact, Newcastle United in their Champions League group. They played teams who aren't great teams anymore, but they played AC Milan, who have an incredibly rich history. Iconic European powerhouse. Borussia Dortmund, very well versed in European football. And Newcastle, despite probably having the best team, they're new to it.
Oh, yeah, it's the experience.
And it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. No. So that's part of the reason as well. But when you think that they've gone to Rome and they've come up against the likes of Romelu Lukaku and Paredes and that, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and it didn't go too well. So the return leg, of course, at the Amex. Brighton fans, we would like to hear from you.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.